Amani and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about An Ember in the Ashes trilogy. Well, it will be a port. For now, I'll be talking about the trilogy, and this will contain both spoilers and spoiler free, so I will let you know when the spoilers start, and so that way you can quickly exit the video and come back after you read it. So as I've already mentioned, the first book in the series is An Ember in the Ashes. This is about a slave named Laia. Her brother is taken by the Martial Empire and is thrown into prison for something that she has no idea about. And so she is going through this journey where she is involved with rebels, and she has to sneak into the palace and pretend to be a slave as she tries to get intel on where her brother might be and help the rebels with their plan. On the other hand, Elias is a soldier, and although he's a soldier, he also isn't free for various reasons and despises a lot of the teachings that he has to do, and so he has his journey. So this is a story told in both Laia and Elias's perspective, as well as Helene's perspective. And so I honestly love all of the characters except for Keris. You'll see why when you read the book, but I honestly think that this is one of those fantasies that everyone needs to read, and if you haven't already done so, you have until December, which is when the December 1st is when the final book comes out, and it's called The Sky Beyond the Storm. It's going to be a purple color, so I'm really excited to read it, and also I pre-ordered it because I could not contain my excitement. So if you have already read it, let me know who you ship Laia with and what you thought of the Nightbringer as well as different characters in the story. I am going to start going into the spoilers, so if you have not read it already, I highly recommend exiting out and then coming back when you read it. Okay, so first of all the spoilers in here were enough to make me read this in about a day, and I stayed up all night reading it because I was so shocked about who the Nightbringer was, and then who, like, Laia's brother, what happened to him, and also the rebels and Laia, and just a lot of the things that went on. And then that ending with Helene, that was wow. And it kind of explained a lot of the things that she does throughout the book. So I would highly suggest, if you end up hating Helene like in the beginning, what did you think of her towards the end? Did you just feel sorry for her? Do you still hate her? And I honestly feel sorry for the girl. I feel like she put in a lot of trust and heart into Elias, and that is going to cost her. And I'm kind of scared to see what's in store for her in Torching Against the Night. But as I said, I'm trying to keep it to just An Ember in the Ashes, since this is what I'm talking about first, and then I'll dive into A Torch Against the Night and A Reaper at the Gates. So for this one, I would say, like, Laia's brother, he's still not found, and on the other hand, Keris, we find out, is Elias's mother as well as the Commandant, and she's one of the most nefarious women on the planet and also the antagonist in the story. And it's so interesting to see who is doing this, because I feel like Keris obviously isn't working alone. She's working with the Nightbringer. We end up finding out that Keenan is the Nightbringer, which I have to say that kind of shocked me a little bit. I thought there was something off about Keenan, but I couldn't figure out what. And then there was some other spoilers that happened, like with Helene and things like that, that I had a feeling something deeper was going to happen with her, but I wasn't 100% sure what, and so that ending was definitely surprising. That was actually kind of nice, because I'm usually the kind of person who, like, I will guess the spoilers or the plot twists ahead of time, and so this was one of the few times where that didn't happen. So, or it kind of did, but then it went in a completely different direction from what I thought it was going to go in. So I'm really excited to dive into my thoughts on A Torch Against the Night, and that's what we're going to start with next. Alright, so the next one is A Torch Against the Night, and as you know, Marcus is now the leader. That was the huge plot twist in An Ember in the Ashes, and Marcus is crazy. So I would have loved to see what would have happened if Elias was ruled, but I mean that's not going to happen. So it's crazy what's happening with the Commandant, and then worst of all, what happens with Helene and how she becomes the Blood Strike and all the horrors that happen with her, to her by Marcus, as well as just the things she has to deal with dealing with Elias. She had convinced her love for him, but then, you know, obviously Elias is with Laia and he's in love with Laia. Meanwhile, Laia and Elias aren't having it easy either. Like, Laia is trying to find her brother. Elias is getting into some trouble when he encounters the prison and he goes into Cough. Wait, where is it? Yeah, Cough. So the Emperor's most secure prison, I believe, and just everything that's happened. And while they're on the run, they are being hunted for by the Commandant, and just all the crazy things that happen. And then plus, like, Leia's faith in Helene is really interesting. Like, that is a story that I didn't see coming. And then just so many different things happen in this book with, like, the Nightbringer and Laia, as well as Izzy and Laia. Izzy and Laia's friendship is honestly really sweet despite the circumstances that has been going on. And then the whole thing with the scholar and everything that's been going on is really intriguing, and just all the plot twists in this book alone, as well as An Ember in the Ashes, was mind-blowing. So I'm going to dive into A Reaper at the Gates next. So this last one is A Reaper at the Gates, and I'm going to go ahead and discuss the spoilers. So if you have not read it, please go ahead and exit out and then come back when you've read it. Alright, so now that you've done that, I was honestly not so surprised that Cook was Mira, and like I kind of guessed it in A Torch Against the Night, or I thought maybe she was the Commandant's spy. I wasn't really sure in the beginning until like A Reaper at the Gates, you know, confirmed everything. And so that whole dynamic with her and Laia and Izzy, that was all really interesting. And then Helene really got into the Blood Strike, and then what happened to her family was really heart-wrenching. Like, I felt really bad for her. And then Marcus eventually realized how awful he was being, and the things that he did to his brother, as well as various things that he does along the lines throughout those series is terrible. But the fact that Helene is finally the one who ends up killing him is something that I thought, you know, that was well done, because if anybody else were to kill him off, it would just seem cheap. And Laia, on the other hand, with the Nightbringer, and then Izzy's death, that was honestly so sad. I really didn't, like, I had a feeling she might die actually in the first book. So by the time, like, the second book happened and she was fine, I was like, okay, she's not gonna die. And then the third book happened and I was like, ooh. And she was honestly one of my favorite side characters, so that was really, really sad. And then on top of that, Elias is dealing with the Soul Catcher and trying to get back to Laia, and then the Commandant's war, plus Helene's sister is married to Marcus, I forgot his name. But anyways, like, all those things are happening all at once, and it's such an epic fantasy book. And then we also get to know a little bit more about the Commandant through the Elias's grandfather, Quinn. And honestly, hearing some of this stuff, you wonder, how did she end up where she was today? Like, I mean, not today, but like in the books, like present day in the books. And I was just kind of, I'm still mind blown about that. I want to know what happened, but I also feel like she's so much of a mystery that maybe it's better not knowing. I guess we'll find out in A Sky Beyond the Storm if she is, you know, how she ended up being where she is now and what her game plan is finally. I'm kind of scared to see what happens, but I also really want to know what happens, and I really hope Elias and Laia make it out alive, but I doubt it's going to be that easy. Have any theories on A Sky Beyond the Storm, which is the final book in the series? What do you think will happen next, and how do you hope that it will end? I'm really hoping that the Nightbringer and the Nightbringer is also the Soul Catcher, or perhaps, you know, Elias somehow finds a way out of this. Maybe Marcus takes his place. Well, Marcus can't take his place anymore, but maybe like something happens where they force Keris to take his place or something like that. I would love to know. I really hope Quinn stays alive because he's one of my favorite characters. And it was really interesting to see Harper and Elias's, you know, story develop, especially finding out that they were, I think, half-brothers or step-brothers, or were they actually brothers? Something like that. Anyway, so that was also really interesting, and then the whole tribe dynamic and what his tribal mother did for him, that was also really sweet, but also really gut-wrenching. And then I just really want to know how this all turns out, and I'm excited to see what happens next.